right, here we go. I am super excited you're ready to do this. So just a quick note on how you can get the most out of this course. There's a lot of content we're about to go over, and some of it may seem really familiar to you, while some won't. And while you are here to fill in gaps in your skill set that you're aware of, you can imagine there are also some already filled in parts of your existing skill set that will need some rewriting in order to move forward. Knowledge is very much built like a tree. If you learn things patchwork or miss the entire foundation, you've got branches that rarely connect to each other and have no trunk and no roots. So you don't have a tree you can grow. You have a mess of sticks in free fall. But learning things patchwork is how a lot of us have picked up our skill sets, and it can be a real shit show out there. So we may have to undo a few things you feel like you already know, but we'll only do that in order to lay some new, stronger foundations in their place. I mean, you're here for a reason. Almost everyone gets to a point where they've built a tangle of branches of knowledge thick enough that it's kind of hard to see where it's choking itself off. That's natural, and you may have to allow yourself to step backward out of that tangle and prune back a few of the ways you're used to thinking about making imagery. So we'll be discussing some things that may seem sort of beneath your skill level, but absorbing and using that stuff may be the most critical to resetting your skill set. As you're aware, there are 7 chapters. Chapters 1 and 2 are shorter and work to establish some core image making ideas that you've undoubtedly encountered before in some form, but that we're going to look at in more detail as a foundation for what we'll be building on as we move forward. Those details are going to matter, so soak that up, because chapters 3 and 4 start defining higher order compositional strategies based on those foundations, and also explore developing an ability to use them across many styles and mediums. Chapters 5 and 6 apply these new skill sets to developing richer concepts and narratives for your imagery. And Chapter 7 wraps it all together into the ever-complicated territory of high-level storytelling. Each chapter builds on concepts from the previous chapter, so the more you can open yourself up to using those concepts anew and tackle the exercises with fresh perspective, the more you'll get out of this and start breaking through the barriers that brought you here. Just remember, we might have to back up a bit to really start moving forward. Now, each chapter ends with a challenge, and some chapters contain small activities within them. For that reason, you'll want to watch them at your computer or wherever you do the bulk of your work. But this is something you're doing for yourself, so treat your space like a classroom. And kill your notifications for a bit. Less distractions equals more good. You get the drift. And each of those challenges specifies a minimum number of images or frames or explorations to be made. And that very much is a minimum suggestion. We'll cover a ton of content, but the only way to really get it is to work with it. A lot. This isn't a passive process. Now, there's absolutely no shame in just aiming for that minimum, but the growth is found in the doing. And the measure of how much growth you want out of this is in part how much time and effort you put into it. Of course, that's true in most things, but it's so true in this case that it still bears repeating. I'm not going to drop a 100 frame commitment on you in chapter 1, but if you're looking to get good, you already know that no one finds mastery by pussyfooting their way to it. So remember, the quotas are bare minimum suggestions, and you can decide your own level of involvement from there. That said, the stuff you may find yourself making in later chapters can end up being really involved and time intensive. You'll be seeing sped up example workflows, some of which have actually spanned almost a week in real time. And for some of the more complex challenges, you may find that your explorations take a while too. Again, you decide your level of time commitment on any given challenge, but definitely don't expect to rip through the whole series in just a few days. There's a Facebook group for sharing and getting feedback on your finished images at facebook.com/groups/visual design lab. So when you complete a challenge, choose a few of your favorite frames and drop them in the comments for that challenge and check out what everyone else has made so far. And then gloat over how much better yours are. Working by yourself, it's always a nice kick to get suggestions from people who are in the same boat. After the initial burn of an ass kicking. So feel free to join the conversation. I'll be handing out pointers myself when they seem helpful. And lastly, as I mentioned, some of the content in these chapters is going to seem simple, and some is dense or nuanced. But none of it is the sort of thing you master on the first pass. It's a process. And if you really dig into the challenges, the process of working on them will present insights that make the content in previous chapters more understandable in retrospect, and you may want to quickly revisit that. The quick reference guides are there with some key points and also summarize each chapter's challenge. And there are subject footers in each video so you can go back and refresh yourself as easily as possible. As mentioned, we're going to fill in some of the gaps you've been looking to fill in your design skill set. But we're also going to uproot some of the habits or workflows you don't even think about and replace them with stronger stuff. Some of that may come easy, but when it doesn't, by all means, take a minute to refresh yourself a few times. And that's pretty much it. Set yourself up a place to manage your output for each challenge so you can post it to the group if you like, and let's get to it!